Once upon a time, in a small, quiet village nestled by the banks of a river, there lived a woman named Matilda. She was known far and wide for her cooking skills. People would travel for miles just to taste her delicious dishes, from spicy jollof rice to tender goat meat stew, and mouth-watering fried plantains. Matilda owned a small restaurant at the heart of the village, and she had poured her heart and soul into making it a success. But despite all her efforts, her business was struggling. The customers, who once lined up eagerly for her food, had stopped coming. Sales had dropped dramatically. Every day, Matilda watched as her dreams slowly crumbled. Her pots were left half empty, and the smell of her once famous dishes no longer filled the streets. Her heart broke every time she looked at the empty chairs in her restaurant. One evening, as she sat in her kitchen, staring at the cold stove, she couldn't hold back the tears. She knew she had to do something, anything, to bring back the customers. That was when a thought crossed her mind, a thought she had been avoiding for months. Her grandmother had once told her stories about the ancient ways of the village, of powerful charms and rituals that could change one's fate. Desperate, Matilda decided to seek out the village's native doctor, an old man named Oboro, who was said to have the power to grant wishes at a price. The next morning, Matilda made her way to the edge of the village, where the tall trees grew thick and wild. Oboro's hut sat at the very center, shrouded in mystery. She knocked on the door and entered to find him sitting by a fire, his eyes gleaming with knowledge and secrets. "I need help, Oboro," Matilda said, her voice trembling. "My restaurant is failing. I don't know what to do. Please, I beg you, tell me how I can make my business thrive again." Oboro studied her for a moment, his wrinkled face unreadable. Then, with a deep sigh, he spoke. "I can help you, Matilda," he said slowly. "But the path to success is not an easy one. It comes with great cost." Matilda listened intently as Oboro explained what she had to do. His instructions were simple but strange. He told her that in order to succeed, she needed to bathe a corpse, and from the water used in the ritual, she would cook for her customers. This, he said, would bring her the customers she so desperately needed. But he warned her that such power always came with a price that she would have to pay sooner or later. Without thinking too much, Matilda agreed. She was so consumed by her desire to see her restaurant flourish that she didn't question the danger in Oboro's words. The next day, she set out to carry out the ritual. That night, Matilda went to the outskirts of the village, where the graveyard stood silent and still. She was guided by Oboro's words, searching for a body that had been recently buried. Her heart raced as she stood by the fresh grave, the earth soft beneath her feet. She felt a chill in the air, and the wind seemed to whisper to her, but she pushed her fear aside. Matilda was determined. She used the water from the grave to bathe the corpse, feeling a cold shiver run through her as she did. The moment the ritual was complete, she could feel a strange power coursing through her, like a weight lifting from her shoulders. The next morning, Matilda returned to her restaurant, and for the first time in weeks, she prepared her meals with a new sense of purpose. When the food was ready, she could almost taste the difference herself. It was richer, more flavorful, and strangely irresistible. She placed the food on the counter, and to her amazement, customers started flocking in. The restaurant became alive once again. Word spread quickly, and soon, there was a line out the door every day. Matilda's sales soared. Her dream was coming true. People praised her cooking, and she became the talk of the village. For the first time in months, Matilda felt like a success. But as the days passed, something began to change. The joy that had once filled her heart started to fade. She became increasingly paranoid. At night, she would lie awake, hearing strange noises outside her window. She would see shadows moving in the corners of her eyes, and sometimes, she thought she could hear voices calling her name. One day, as she was preparing food in the kitchen, her head cook, Nia, came to her with a worried look on her face. "Matilda, something strange is happening," Nia said, her voice low. "The food, it tastes different now. Not in a good way. It's like it's cursed." Matilda's heart skipped a beat. She had been so caught up in her success that she hadn't stopped to consider the consequences of her actions. But she brushed it off. "You're just overthinking, Nia," she said, forcing a smile. "It's just the spices." Nothing more. But Nia wasn't convinced. The next day, while Matilda was out gathering ingredients, Nia decided to investigate the kitchen herself. What she discovered sent a chill down her spine. She found a strange vial hidden beneath the floorboards, the very water from the ritual Matilda had used. In that moment, Nia realized the truth. She couldn't keep quiet any longer. When Matilda returned, Nia confronted her. "Matilda," she cried, her voice shaking. "You've been using a corpse's water to cook for the customers. This is madness. You need to stop." Matilda froze, her face paling. The guilt and fear hit her like a wave, but before she could explain, Nia shouted to the other staff, "Everyone. Matilda has been using dark magic to run this place." The room filled with gasps, and the other workers began to back away from Matilda in fear. Her once thriving restaurant, now the center of attention for all the wrong reasons, felt colder than ever. Matilda's heart sank. How could she have let it come to this? But before she could say anything more, the ground beneath her feet seemed to tremble. A cold, unnatural wind swept through the restaurant, rattling the windows. The door creaked open, and a dark shadow loomed in the doorway, an eerie figure that none of them could see clearly, but they all felt the presence. The shadow moved closer, and the air grew thick with a presence that chilled them all to the bone. Matilda's stomach turned as she realized the price had come. The shadow in the doorway grew larger, its presence suffocating the room. Matilda's heart hammered in her chest as the figure stepped closer, a deep, unsettling silence following its every movement. The staff, still frozen in fear, could barely breathe. Matilda took a step back, but she couldn't move away from the figure that seemed to loom over her like a dark cloud. As the figure came into full view, it wasn't a man, or any living thing she had ever seen before. It was a translucent figure, made of shadows and flickers, its eyes hollow and endless, like the abyss itself. Matilda recognized it, the spirit of the corpse she had bathed with the ritual water. The air around them grew colder, and the once inviting scent of her delicious meals began to rot, replaced by the heavy, nauseating stench of death. The figure spoke, its voice like a low whisper carried by the wind, but it rang loudly in Matilda's ears. "You have stolen from me, Matilda. My peace, my dignity, my resting place. You have disturbed what should never be disturbed." Matilda fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. I never meant for any of this to happen," she sobbed, her voice shaky. "I just wanted to survive. I thought if I did this, everything would be okay. I never thought it would come to this." The spirit did not reply immediately. It floated there, silent, as if considering her words. Then it spoke again, its tone colder this time. "There is a price for everything, Matilda. And you have paid only part of it. This business of yours, it may flourish for a while, but it will never bring you peace. The lives you took, these are the ones you'll answer to." Matilda could feel the weight of every word, a burden heavier than the world itself pressing down on her chest. She had been blind to the consequences of her actions, chasing a dream so hard that she never stopped to look at the cost. The power she had sought had come at the expense of something far more important, her soul. With shaking hands, she reached into her pocket and pulled out the vial of water from the ritual, holding it up to the figure. "I'll destroy it. I'll destroy everything. Just, please, don't let this curse ruin me forever." But the spirit didn't seem moved. "The damage is done, Matilda. It cannot be undone. You've tasted the power of the dark, but now you must pay for it. Your heart, your peace, they will never be the same again. But the choice is yours. Live with the guilt, or seek redemption. That is the only way to find true peace." With that, the spirit began to fade, leaving a chill that lingered in the air long after it was gone. The room was silent, save for the soft, shaky breaths of Matilda and her staff. Nia, who had watched in horror, now approached Matilda. "What have you done, Matilda?" she whispered, her voice filled with sorrow. "This wasn't the way. You didn't have to go to such extremes. We could have helped you. You just needed to trust us." Matilda's heart broke as she looked up at Nia, who had always stood by her. "I thought I could fix everything on my own. I thought I could make it all right again. But now I see how much I've hurt myself, And how much I've hurt you all. For the first time in weeks, Matilda allowed herself to truly grieve. Not for the restaurant, not for the success she had once longed for, but for the broken pieces of herself she had neglected. She realized that in trying to fix everything, she had lost herself. The restaurant, though still filled with the scent of freshly prepared food, no longer felt like her dream. It felt like a cage, a reminder of her desperation and her mistakes. And it was time to change. Over the next few weeks, Matilda shut down her restaurant. But instead of continuing the lie, she opened her heart. She sat down with Nia and the rest of her staff, pouring out the truth. She confessed everything, the ritual, the charms, and the consequences she had never imagined. She apologized, not just for the deception, but for not trusting those who had cared for her. To her surprise, her staff didn't abandon her. Instead, they stayed, helping her rebuild, but this time not just a restaurant, they helped her rebuild her spirit. Matilda worked hard to regain their trust, making amends by sharing with them the wisdom she had gained from her painful journey. She no longer sought shortcuts to success, but instead, she embraced patience, hard work, and honesty. Matilda also spent time with the elders of the village, learning more about the true ways of her ancestors, not for power or success, but for wisdom and peace. She even started cooking for the community, not for profit, but to bring people together, to heal her heart and hers alone. Years passed, and Matilda's name, once whispered in fear, became known for something much greater: her wisdom, her humility, and her willingness to make amends. The village, once again, thrived not because of the food she served, but because of the love and respect she had earned from those around her. And every night, before she went to bed, Matilda would sit by the window, looking out at the stars, thankful for the lessons life had taught her. She had learned that true success wasn't about what you could gain, but what you could give and the peace that comes with a clear conscience. Moral of the story: success that comes through deceit and shortcuts is always temporary. True growth, prosperity, and peace come from honesty, hard work, and respect for the balance of life. In times of struggle, trust in those around you and never lose sight of the greater good. The end. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.